lettuce season here in Michigan is about over until the fall. All the lettuce here is about ready to bolt or flower, and it's been triggered by the high temperatures that we've been having. But I don't want any of this to go to waste, so I'm going to harvest it and I'm going to get it all washed and then preserve it for weeks. And I will show you how I do that. This year I grew Bib lettuce and butter crunch lettuce in this green stalk, and it did fabulous. It turned out nice and crisp and crunchy, and they grew fairly quickly as well. So I'm gonna probably grow Bib lettuce and butter crunch lettuce in the green stalk for now on. So now that we have all of our lettuce, we're gonna take it in the house and we're going to wash it in some really cool water. After that, we're gonna lay it all out on a towel so that it can dry. You can also pat it dry, but I just let mine air dry. Just make sure that it is very dry. The next step is you're gonna put a paper towel in the bottom of whatever container that you're using. And what I do is I layer it. And I just take another piece of paper towel and I stick it in there on top, like so. So I've been using this method for a long time with store-bought lettuce, but this is the first time that I'm using it on my freshly, harvested lettuce from what I grew. So I'm gonna see how long that this will last. Right now I'm on week 2, but I will let you guys know how long it actually lasts for. Now, another thing that I do is I vacuum seal with my jar sealer. And I do this a lot with a lot of my fruits and vegetables because it makes them last way longer than just, a week or so in the fridge. Now, if you don't have a vacuum sealer, you can just do this with just jars and paper towels. That's what I did before I got the vacuum sealer. And it had it last a lot longer, but I like using the jar sealers to keep my produce fresh. Next up is the buttermilk pancake recipe, and you can also use this as a waffle batter mix as well. And for this, you're just going to be using flour, buttermilk, sugar, baking powder, baking soda, and salt for your dry ingredients. So I needed to restock my pantry, so I'm just using this Tupperware container, and I just put 6 cups of flour, and then I use 1.5 cups of buttermilk powder, 1/3 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3 teaspoons of salt. Now, when I'm ready to make this, I just take out 1 1/3 cup of the dry mix and put it into the bowl. With the dry mix, I add 1 cup of water and 1 egg. But this, I wanted to make it a thinner batter, so I put 2 eggs in. And then I added 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. As I was saying, this is a thin pancake because I added 1 extra egg. And in this video, I'm going to show you the difference between adding an extra egg and not adding an extra egg, because I wanted both the thin pancakes and the thick pancakes today. I'm gonna try my hand at making some chocolate syrup because Matthew likes the chocolate syrup in his iced coffee, and there's not hardly any left in here, so I'm gonna try to make some, try to get it to taste like this. Hopefully we can. We'll see what happens.
We're gonna be making chocolate syrup. So first we are gonna start with 1 cup of water.
Yep.
2 cups of salt.
No.
I mean sugar.
Before you add in the cocoa, give that.
We're gonna give it a little mixy mix before we add the rest of the ingredients. We are gonna add the cocoa in.
How much you putting in?
3.
A third of a cup.
A third of a cup. We're gonna mix it, right?
Add in your vanilla too right now.
Okay.
And then you can just whisk this for about 5 minutes.
Okay. So since I added the vanilla in, we
Now you're gonna whisk
are
it.
going to whisk it for 5 minutes. And we will see you then.
So I guess the jigger can start with
So now that the chocolate syrup is made, we are gonna let it cool. And taste test it and see how it tastes.
This chocolate syrup turned out so delicious. I probably won't never buy chocolate syrup from the store again now that I know that I can make it. I mean, and it's so easy and with minimal ingredients. We used it to top our ice cream, chocolate milk, cold coffee. You would use this exactly the way that you would use Hershey chocolate syrup.
It's really good.
Does it taste like Hershey syrup?
Mm-hmm. It really does taste like Hershey syrup.
Buying rice in bulk like this here, I have a 20-pound bag of long grain rice that I paid $11.99 for. It is a great way to stock your pantry with something that is very high in caloric value and has a very long shelf life. Depending on personal preference, about 25 to 60 pounds of rice should be stored per person. I'm using these 100 cc oxygen absorbers. White rice has a shelf life of up to 30 years if it's stored in a cool, dry place, sealed in a container with oxygen absorbers. Most grains are best preserved at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or below. If you store your grains at a higher temperature than that, it will probably last about 10 years. So for a 20-pound bag of white rice, we got 4 half gallons and 4 quarts, which in total is 6 half gallons of rice. The next recipe I have for you guys is a Montreal steak seasoning recipe. And I wanted to come as close as I could to this Montreal steak seasoning because we use a lot of the Montreal steak seasoning because it's just delicious. So I used a bunch of spices, and I will leave all of the spices and measurements in the description for everyone if anyone is interested in making this themselves. This turned out really good. I will definitely make it again. But if you don't have a lot of spices, I mean, this might not be doable. I wouldn't run out and buy any extra spices to make a, Montreal steak seasoning, that's for sure. But I already had all this on hand, and I just wanted to see if I could come up with a really good knockoff version of it, I guess you can say. And I did wind up using my coffee grinder to grind up some of these spices because I don't have a pestle and mortar. So this is what I got. So this is what I'm going to use. Okay, so I started off by using 2 tablespoons of dried garlic flakes, and I just used my chinois thing here to crush it up a little bit. And then we're gonna use 2 tablespoons of paprika, 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of dill weed, tablespoon of red pepper flakes, tablespoon of coriander, tablespoon of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of peppercorns, a tablespoon of mustard seeds, a half a tablespoon of caraway seeds, next we added a tablespoon of ground fennel, a tablespoon of dill seed, and a tablespoon of granulated garlic. That is a lot of spices, but this turned out super delicious. I tried it out on some ground beef and it tasted fantastic. Next up, we are going to do some brownies, and I keep my brownies in these quart-sized jars because it is super convenient for me. And I wanted to address some questions that I had about these brownies. I got a few questions about, are they cake-like brownies? Are they fudgy brownies? In my opinion, these brownies are in between. And I will show you the end result of what they look like. But I'm going to walk you through this process and show you what the batter turns out looking like. So it's not like a thin batter, it's a pretty thick batter that you're going to have with these brownies. All I do is I just take my spatula and I just push it all down nice and even, and this turns out great every time I make them. And I didn't get a shot of me pulling them out of the oven because I was in the middle of like 5 different things because I'm making some dark brown sugar here. But here is the pan, and they're not like super thick or anything, but yeah, this is dark brown sugar, by the way, and it is so good. And it's the same as regular brown sugar. I just like mine to be a bit darker. Makes my baked goods taste better. But this is the end result. This is the inside of the brownies. So as you can see, it's like a cross in between fudgy and cakey. That, to me anyway, I mean, that's what I would call like an in-between. But they are so delicious. They never last very long. Everybody loves them. Next up is the vanilla cake muffins. These are so light and fluffy and delicious. These are my favorite. So we're gonna use, for this recipe, 4 tablespoons of buttermilk, 2 1/4 cups of flour, 1 1/2 cups of sugar, 3 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. Now I'm going to just give all that a quick mix so that everything gets well incorporated. Then I'm going to whip up a stick of butter. 1 softened stick of butter. Whip it for like 5 minutes. That's all you got to do. Then add in all your wet ingredients, which is 3 eggs, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and 1 1/2 cups water. After that, you're just going to pour all of your dry ingredients into the mixing bowl and mix for about 3 minutes on medium speed. And then either you put it in cake pans or a 13 by 9 inch greased pan, or muffins. In this case, I am making muffins, and it makes 24 muffins. And for the muffins, I'm going to be baking these for 20 minutes at 350 degrees, and they turn out fabulous. What's been happening in the garden? Well, we are slowly but surely trying to get it going. Matthew is out here pulling up 2 strips of the fabric because he pulled some up to check out the soil and he wasn't happy with what he saw. We have been slowly trying to amend the soil by just digging like holes and then putting like compost and things like that, just amendments inside of the holes, but it's not helping much. So if I had to guess, this is probably like 90% clay. So yeah, we got a lot of work ahead of us trying to amend these beds. Some of our plants to grow this year, but we'll get there. Well, today is June 2nd, so we're kind of getting a late start on the garden, but we've been busy doing other things. Matthew's been busy doing a lot of things. He needs more Matthews. We need to make, we need to do some cloning or something of them so that we can get more done. So we got mice living out here. Mice, moles, voles, groundhogs, chipmunks, all of which are just a gardener's best friend. And let's not forget raccoons and possums. So now we're going to break out the tiller. This tiller has actually been a lifesaver when it comes to our garden. It works really well. Gets the job done pretty quickly. So Matthew's getting it started for me, and he's gonna do the first run on both of the rows to get it a little loosened up for me, and then we'll take turns on doing a deep till. And then after that, Matthew's gonna drive in all the T-posts and get them in the ground, and then we're just gonna set up all the cattle panel. And we're primarily using this cattle panel for our tomatoes, our cucumbers, and we're probably gonna grow a few beans out here and some watermelon and hopefully some squash.
Homesteader's best friend, zip ties, cattle panel, and T-post.
After we put up as much cattle panel as we thought that we were going to need, we went ahead and put down the drip irrigation. Matthew got all of that hooked up so that we don't have to hand water, because hand watering takes a long time. Plus, he hooked up an electric fence out here as well to try to keep the critters out of the garden so that we can actually harvest some of our produce this year.
Boy, grab all that wire. Tell me if it's working or not. Huh?
No, thank you.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Now that the garden is squared away, we're going to start getting all of our plants that we started indoors outside. We have pepper starts, we have tomato starts, cucumber starts, we have some more lettuce starts, and I think we had a few watermelons too. Now, one of the other things that we're going to be using, and I've shown this before, is our rabbit pellets, I guess you call it. We're just scooping them up, putting them in a bucket, and we're going to put them on the plants as a slow release fertilizer. Okay, so these are some of the peppers that are still in these containers here that I started from seed in my basement. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna dip these in some water to separate these so that we don't disturb the roots really much. And then we're gonna pop them in the ground and we're gonna see how they do.
And hope that it'll grow more.
Hopefully they will grow, yes. Two years ago, I had a massive pepper harvest due to, I believe, using rabbit manure. So this year, because I did not use rabbit manure last year, so I'm hoping that this year we will have the same result. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. We would appreciate it.
I want to say this. Doing this gardening thing, it's a lot of work, but we enjoy the process. So, and then we'll really enjoy the fruits of that labor. So, yeah, it's worth it.